You're crazy, man. You're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
Yes! That's awesome!
This is exactly what the nerds want.
We're no longer part of the system.
I got hairy legs.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Gay!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Gulp Conspiracies show,
What's going on?
broadcasting from the Big Gulp Labs. I'm your host, Wild Bill.
And I'm your host, Pockets. We've got an interesting show coming at you today. We do have a guest who's coming on to tell us about some of his experience. Go ahead, Wild Bill. Why don't you introduce him?
Today we have a phenomenal guest for you with such an awesome story, Beyond Top Secret Texan. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Shalom and namaste. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
the
Happy to
pleasure is
have
all
you.
ours, man. Thank you. Feel like I'm in the presence of a real celebrity here, dude. I've been following you for a while. It's pretty dope.
Thank you, man. It makes me feel like a rock star, and that really, motivates me to go forward with this because, it's one of those things where that's what I'm doing it for. That's just the people to feel like, this is information they need to know.
For sure.
This is something that they should feel, excited to hear.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's crucial as well. And so let's just go ahead and jump into it, if you don't mind. So you were a part of the 20 and back, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so that starts when you're very young in age, right? Do you want to just break us into that and how that happened for you?
Yeah.
Well, it's really hard to summarize the enormity of the context of it, and I've done so previously, spending a longer form amount of time to kind of go into detail. But the short story is, at the age of 9, I was approached via representatives of the Solar Warden under the control of the U.S. Navy. They used teleporting technology basically to recruit me within my room, and through the
Wow.
quantum elements of it, the time traveling elements of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's both where it began and where it ended, because I was then returned at the age of 9 back into that bedroom at the same time. Of course, the memories were hidden behind screen memories and compartmentalized. And the entire process of my adolescence and maturation was one of close observation, gate program level, the artificial childhood that a lot of the SSP survivors can attest to and testify to.
Mm.
And then in my 20s, I started regaining memories.
Oh, man.
As well as basically connecting the dots and putting together the experiences. They basically at that point started flooding in, and this coincides not so much with my own personal ability to remember, but a lot of stuff that's going on currently in a celestial or cosmic level. We're in a time of great changes, and a lot of people like myself are going to start waking up. Specifically because this is a real phenomenon. This is a real element of our Earth, our species, of our nation,
Of our existence
of
right
our
now.
very being.
Oh, wow.
It always has been, and it will continue to be so in the future, just in a much more relevant and it's more of like an awakening, an unveiling of what's always existed, but it's existed in secrecy. It's a great disclosure.
So kind of
But-
possibly maybe like a conscious wake up for these people that experience that maybe.
Yes, that's what I was saying. That kind of summarizes how I regained my memories and what the era that this last decade was. I guess you'd call it 2012 and afterwards.
So man,
That's when the old world of secrecy, the old world of silence, and the half-blind reality we were living in, started to kind of dissolve and disintegrate, and now we are entering this new era of disclosure and awareness.
Yeah.
Thus, here I am. Here is the disclosure portion of it. My own personal story in the 20-year and back was one of a solar warden, petty officer, and many, different specialties and I guess you call it situations that would require different specialization training. It's a very strange program and memories, but they were very active years. That those 20 years played out between the years of 1996 and 2016.
dang.
Wow.
And so very, very busy years.
Yeah, you just think about all that
There
happened.
is a lot of reality behind the 20-year and back that's utterly amazing and fascinating and brilliant and beautiful, but there's also a lot of dark side stuff to it,
sure.
a lot of complexities, as all reality is, and it's very much it's an important study. But it's very much the advanced level of this ufology, UAP, UFO, OVNI reality.
So, if I may just...
It includes, it's an umbrella term. SSP is, by the way, for anyone listening out there, it's an umbrella term that includes everything from the hollow earth to oceanic, mysteries and frontiers, the Arctic, Antarctic, every type of interstellar, intergalactic, interdimensional travel, as long as it's sponsored or performed in connection with extraterrestrials or in that domain.
So would that go back?
It's a universal term.
So that goes back to ancient antiquities then, when we have the flying imanas and stuff like that written in ancient India?
Yes, exactly. It includes ancient aliens. It includes, things like the Asher High Command. It includes things like the reptilian conspiracy world. It includes it's a holistic and panoptic spectrum in which you see the world around you through the lens of the SSP. Okay. And it's the SSP stands for Secret Space Program, which is the definition or the distinguishment between seeing these things as existing, but then seeing these things as existing with mankind's influence.
Would you say that basically the reality that is for everybody here on Earth is basically a simulation in the fact that they have all this other stuff going on, but for us laymen here, this is what they keep us engaged with to keep us out of what's really going on?
I am firmly convinced this is some kind of island world, or at least island territory within a much larger geographic world that we exist in, and that we are more victims of our very own society and the mindset which it created inside like this isolation that we were in. And it's much more, we aren't literally put into a zoo world, but we are kept in a zoo mindset.
Okay.
The bars of the prison aren't physical, like invisible domes or ice walls or barriers. They're the mental and spiritual walls that have been put in each and every one of us by the world that we call home. And it's that it's one of the things where it's hard to explain to someone who thinks that, you know, like that the world they live in is the real world when it's not. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's mental slavery and not a physical slavery.
Right.
And it's a mental zoo and not a physical zoo.
So
I don't think that when I say it's a zoo world, that there are aliens, you know, using mankind for tourist, you know, profits and things like that. No, but I think that, or that genetic specimens are kept alive on Earth, you know, through a sense of like conservation effort. Although that might be more true than not. This could just be a big breeding facility
for them to harvest
basically a baby
genetics.
factory. Or even for ourselves, but we've done it to ourselves because this is how we recruit the natural man, as it were, because you need the natural man because it's a healthier man than a clone or a man born, you know, it's a strangely complex conspiracy, exactly why they keep people in the dark.
Yeah.
But they do, and we do it to ourselves. The age of disclosure is not going to be the government letting us know the secret. It's simply learning the secret for yourself.
I couldn't agree more with that.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a physical. It's literally like all you have to do is knock on the door and then open it, and they try the handle, and you'll learn that it's unlocked.
Yeah, okay.
And everyone else is told you your entire life that it's locked and that no key can open it, you know, and don't even try. If you touch it, you'll get shocked.
Exactly.
And, you know,
creating the fear.
It has this huge cult of fear. And that's what I'm saying. It's a mental thing. It's this invisible societal isolation that our country and our people called the Western society is in.
Yeah.
It's not like that everywhere. And in fact, it's not like that in all of and even societies very close to us, like Mexico and things like that, who have very curious and somewhat liberated, you know, worldviews when it comes to extraterrestrials. Like the French have a very, very liberated and progressive view on UFOs. So do the Italians, and the elite often in our society, and all societies often do.
Yeah.
It's once again very much like the times are changing, and I think that the whole secrecy was controlled by the Rockefellers, specifically the Rockefellers, to because they control our society. We were all slaves to the Rockefellers.
They had like 90% of the oil. Then they, you know, had even all the way to the, you know, the universities controlled what they were teaching.
Exactly. That we were de facto slaves to the Rockefellers, and when the Rockefellers decided to keep the extraterrestrials and to keep other civilizations of ultra-terrestrials and crypto-terrestrials a secret, that was just the law. And the law is a century old by this point, and it's time for it to change. People never accepted it. In their hearts, I believe everyone already knew the truth, always knew the truth. I believe that the golden age of science fiction, I believe that the golden age of ufology in the 50s was the true natural curiosity of mankind, the stars. We thought we'd have space stations. We thought we'd have bases on Mars. We thought, you know, we'd have all this like robot butlers and shit, flying cars. And that future has been suppressed. That future has been hidden from us.
Do you think that golden years of the 50s of the UFOs you just brought up, do you think that is when the U.S. Navy got involved with the SSP? And you think that's when they kind of, you know, realized what was going on?
That's when a lot of it became a matter of national security, and it became a war zone, and it definitely changed the attitude and the spin of it, and the necessities or the rationalization for it to take this way is you know, various, but some can argue human nature, some can argue that it was the Ashtars' design and their manipulation or their angle on us to create basically a knighthood or a literal military wing of humans trained by extraterrestrials to operate in space.
Holy shit.
To elevate and to protect Earth. Basically but that's the future. That's inevitable. That's like it's human nature. If not them, somebody in some incarnation, it would be called something, and it would be something else. But it would exist. That element of this would exist.
I mean, that's what that's what we've been doing for a long time. I mean, since day one is trying to move on forward.
But originally, the first efforts into space, besides just simply exploring and testing the possibilities, once we started actually seriously doing it, was industrial, was mercantile, was merchant fleets and mining efforts and colonies such as that on the moon. And that was in collaboration between the USA and the USSR working together. And that was a purely industrial, purely financially motivated secret. They kept it secret because, it's a trade secret. It's part of the labyrinthian world of real mining companies. I don't know if you ever thought about that. They mine on the seafloor. They mine in places human beings have never been before.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
They have satellites. Like, think about real modern day $1 trillion mining companies in Siberia and shit like that. Like, they don't tell anyone what they're doing or why they're doing it. That's how you see exploration into Hollow Earth. That's how you start seeing exploration to the deep oceans. It's all industrial. The military came second, merely to protect Earth because of the necessity, given that we do have extraterrestrial and ultra-terrestrial enemies. Like I said, that it's just kind of it's necessity that we have Solar Warden. But there are other wings or branches of the SSP.
Would you like to kind of maybe elaborate on that stuff a little bit now?
Oh yeah, I would absolutely love to. See, everyone talks about the Solar Warden, and that was the branch I was in, so that was the experience that I had was in Solar Warden. But I guess you call it the core, the foundation of the SSP is the ICC. The ICC. Or basically the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. And that is a conglomeration of international companies that have all dedicated their profits and research of technologies into space-faring technologies so that they can travel, colonize, and mine rare minerals located, around
throughout
the Earth,
the
basically.
Earth. And is that, I mean, I assume that includes like the galaxy.
Yes, they're the ones who do most of the exploration. They're the ones who do most of the colonization. They're the ones who provide most of the motivation for cloning, thus the technologies, for example, for communicating with these far-off colonies and defending them, researching weaponry. Just like the military-industrial complex is really the engine of war and the surface-level world, right? Nations may have political reasons and have organizations such as the U.S. Army, but technology and industrialists, engineers, and materialists, like financiers and things like that. Those are the real motivators and directors of progress.
The movers and shakers.
Solar Warden may defend the lunar colony, but the one manning the cafeteria and cleaning the toilets and getting the iron ore and titanium ore from the surface and then shipping that back to Earth using magnetic momentum launchers, basically hypervelocity guns that just shoot, container ship sized cargo bullets filled with ore, mineral ore.
Holy
back
shit,
to
dude.
Earth. Yeah. and they hit Siberia, and then they're just collected.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that stuff, that's ICC. That's completely corporate. That's
That's
completely industrialist. It has everything to do with profits and nothing to do with disclosure or telling anyone. It's
like
a trade secret.
Like the Amazon and Exxon Mobil of like the ice of the galaxy.
Of our solar
Exactly.
system.
Like that's as much of a motivator. And see, like, who makes and fabricates the ships in the shipyards? They may be even, Solar Warden has its own factories in-house, but those facilities are rare, and they're mostly controlled by the ICC to create cargo ships or troop or colonies that are not military in intention, but meant to, basically house and contain hundreds of thousands of clones, which the technology was pioneered and thus kept secret, not within the walls of any kind of military laboratory, and so FOIA doesn't really apply to it. There are trade secrets kept within like these massive, like real life umbrella companies.
Right.
And they're all working together. They're all a conglomerate. So it's like there's not one company that runs anything important in the world that is not owned or controlled by the interest of other companies. It's all a giant puzzle, right? And they all basically have the same boss.
Mm-hmm. It's like like a family tree. You got somebody at the top that's got all these branch off corporations.
Compartmentalized.
Yeah, and at this level, no one's rocking the boat. Everyone's working together. And a lot of the stuff that they are motivated for is the acquisition of alien technology, which gives them edges and basically a post, any edge they can get in technology, a post-innovation world. Things like the internet, things like fiber optics, things like, touchscreens. All were originally reverse engineered by these companies from crashed UFOs. So think about what they're finding and what they are trying to get their hands on. Wow. This is very much your Weyland-Yutanis of the real world, the ICC.
And do we know where the ICC maybe sort of originated? I mean, it's the humans didn't start it. Is that correct?
No, we did. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds of the world, the creators of giant industrial cartels. Okay. So the history of the SSP, the timeline of it, starts very early during what I now call, and a lot of people do call, a study like Tartaria, the Great Reset.
Okay. But that's the SSP, but I'm talking about the ICC.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's one of the first, and the first, people don't know this, but space travel was first theorized in the 1800s.
Wow.
That these banking interests, the companies that we think are mega successful today, they don't hold a candle to companies back in the old days. The Dutch East India Company, for example, made more money back in the days of sail ships before there was electricity, and their profits alone outweigh all of the modern companies that exist today, including Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Nike, all of them. It does the profits were enormous. So these people had industrial, steampunk level. They could make a train, they could make battleships, they could make technology. They were getting UFOs they were finding in the American West. Specifically, the Rockefellers were doing that, finding them in the Colorado Rockies, finding them in the American deserts. These mining interests that, it was on their land, basically. So imagine these people who are not stupid. They're very educated people. Yeah. Right. And they're putting together the pieces. They're already Freemasons. They're parts of these cabals. They get the gears in motion, and they start basically brute forcing early space travel. It's theorized that the first space flights, and remember, this is implied that a lot of the false history that we're taught is just that. It's false history. There was a combined effort very early on to build rockets, to build, you can get to orbit with balloons.
That's why I've heard that, NASA has the world's most supply of helium.
They own all
Yes.
the plants. Yeah, they use
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, it's you have to start using your imagination. That these people who were like, in the Jules Verne era, Victorian England era, ages, were building zeppelins.
Yeah, that's true.
Space travel was on the books. Space travel was, maybe a lot more difficult, but still not impossible.
Mapped out.
Also, if you start putting the pieces together, that, it's the things that we use to get into space officially are not very technologically advanced.
Yeah.
We did it without computers, basically, with a computer that was very, very weak.
Damn,
And that,
dude.
You could theoretically build an analog spaceship as long as, you were sufficiently good at engineering, and these people were the best engineers with metalwork, steam power, think about it, kind of a steam powered rocket, basically. But it's completely feasible.
I mean, and it makes sense because I think about the way stuff is getting now for us, people here stuck here, it's all digital touchscreens. Like, I have trucks at work, and anymore we get newer trucks, the worse they work. They break down more, there's more electronics, there's always going haywire, But if you go back and you have the good old standard transmission, no touchscreen, just FM, AM, radio dial, I mean, the shit works better. It doesn't, it doesn't stop working.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, the people have this weird bias against old technology, but I think that the people who study, like, steampunk and who, like, have that romanticism will understand the Victorian age world was one of, like, amazing technological progress. Like, it was the Industrial Revolution.
For sure.
And that by these means, and I'm not going to elaborate, like, this is exactly what they did, but they were able to set the stones and foundations of the mindset at work, and thus create the breakaway civilization purely through the desire for money, purely for the desire for power on this world.
Wow.
And the Rockefellers had sponsored a lot of these foundations, think tanks, organizations, engineers that studied aviation, that studied things like aerodynamics, things like propulsions, electromagnetics, electrogravitics. These things, like Tesla level technologies.
Yeah.
Imagine if Tesla was not so unique that you could not educate, say, for example, the best and brightest at the top dollar with no expense is not an option. You're John D. Rockefeller, to create a breakaway civilization of aviation engineers.
Or you just recruit them all
to get this shit done. And that's exactly what they did. This was the beginning of the ICC.
So I'm sorry.
Companies like Boeing, Lockheed, Rockwell Air, especially Rockwell Air with Howard Hughes and things like that. These were the children of that era. People who were developing the atom bomb. People who within 40 years of the turn of the century, it went from horse and buggies with planes being not officially invented yet, to having atom bombs and being able to create jets.
So, do you think that the world fairs were used as like a recruiting platform as well for this?
Of course.
Wow.
Yes.
That's why they put out such an extravagant effort to be all over the world at the time.
Yes, and that actually a lot of the suppression of that is the phenomenon afterwards, where this starts becoming a secret.
Okay.
Because
holy
it's
shit,
ironic
dude!
that something that was so much the pride of the modern Western world.
Oh my
That
god,
makes sense.
this is going fucking deep, dude. Into like, now it's really starting to come together to me. How I'm seeing how this all played out.
How it
'cause
ties
John
back
D.
into.
Rockefeller was alive from 1870 to 1930, basically as the richest man in America. That's what I'm saying. Like, it happened like really early in the late 1800s, when people were like, "Hey, if you can, if you want to fly in a Zeppelin and go to the North Pole and work on fucking." Or actually, the breakaway civilization was in Sedona, Arizona. But back when Arizona was basically just a wasteland.
Okay.
So it's not a bad place. Exactly. It's not
No.
inhospitable. They weren't like literally, they were just in the desert. And that's the great tradition of putting all your aviation's top secret shit in the desert, because it's tried and true practice. You
It
just
all
hang
started
out
there.
literally where it's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh.
You
Right,
can only
right.
get there by balloon. And that's where there's the balloon festival in New Mexico
Okay.
and Santa Fe.
Wow.
And that's like, that's basically perfect ballooning weather. And it's these people were able to have fully functional genteel societies where, the kids learned, aviation and basically had a very prestigious life, but they lived only for the designing of aviation equipment, such as rockets, planes, things like that. And they created things that are now top secret, like different kinds of gyroscopic balancing technology, obviously different kinds of propulsion, electrogravitics, anti-gravity, things like that, which are not impossible, especially if you're working with a lot of money.
For sure.
And, that's the secrets that they perfected was anti-gravity. And basically with the use of anti-gravity, it's no longer thinking in terms of rocket programs, like the V2 program. It's thinking in terms of these gigantic magnets and things like lighter than air vehicles, buoyancy, which gets you into orbit and allows for very fuel efficient and silent drives, like silent propulsions.
Okay.
With that, you also get things like hypersonic travel. Inertia is like turning, so you basically start seeing the UFO phenomenon emerge.
Right, right.
And that many of the UFOs at this time are mixed between extraterrestrials and what they call the airship phenomenon. And this is, this is very early in the game, and this is the ICC. And the governing body of it was down on Earth, and now it's basically the same. It hasn't changed. It's just the largest and wealthiest industrialists controlling these basically operations from Earth to the ground, and that's how the colonization started, and that's what's directing it currently. Mars, the people on Mars, they're clones. They were clones. They were originally put up there specifically to mine the land, to work the land.
Oh my God.
To
So-
serve as, they basically are living tools.
Do you think that that comes into the play of like people who've been abducted and whatnot? You think that they've been abducted to be cloned and then the
No.
clones put to work?
Now, the abduction phenomenon is very interesting. The abduction phenomenon is something tied into, the Greys.
The contract.
And their belief that the world is their laboratory.
Gotcha.
And the Greada Treaty, signed by Eisenhower.
Okay, yeah, we've
Right.
talked about
with
that.
the Greys for Grey technology, which is, now we're going into the 1950s.
Yeah, when
And this
Eisenhower denied the contract with the Nordics to get rid of the nuclear weapons, correct?
Yes, that would have been an alternative option. Was the Nordics, the Venusians, are by the representative Valiant Thor,
Okay.
had given us the ultimatum to relinquish our nuclear energy or nuclear weapons and stop splitting the atom and researching fission and fusion in exchange for technologies. The same technologies were offered by the Greys. Without that ultimatum, we could keep our nuclear weapons, we could keep our atomic energy that we loved so much, and they would help us make even better atomic weapons. But they got to abduct people, and in fact, every animal. And to be honest, the deal that Eisenhower struck was that they could only take 0.003% of the population.
Which is just growing all the time.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
the Greys, doing statistical math, realize that's literally hundreds of thousands of people, especially around the world.
Yeah.
And when you factor it in, that's the Greys for you. And so thus began the abduction programs from the 50s onward. They reached a peak of severity in the 80s where the Greys were just full-scale abducting whoever and, anyone and anything they wanted. And taking, hormone secreting organs, glands, endocrine systems, nervous. The world to them is a laboratory, and being clones themselves, they have no real soul. They basically made a deal with devils. Ironically, though, that there are grays that are better than other grays. I hesitate to say good grays. I think all grays are pretty terrible, but that's a personal bias of my own. But the grays themselves are part of the Astral High Command, so they're given securities and protections. Their big enemy, and the reason why they're part of the Astral High Command, it's kind of excused, is because they were at war with the Orion Draco reptilians.
Okay.
It's
Damn, dude.
politics. There's a reason why all of this was excused, and one of the things was because they signed the deal, the Gallardo Treaty, and there was a battle. There have been battles, and will probably always be battles between outlaw, illegally operating grays and elements of Earth slash elements of light. They themselves, are neutral, but they have a very dark side tendency. And that was the Battle of El Dulce in 1979, where Phil Schneider talks about being basically the first person to kind of discover that they were operating under El Dulce.
And then and he got the magical bang bang later on, suicided for that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. That's the story. That's the account where they've literally found, and that was just his one account, by his own testament, that he believes that the government knew all about it, that people had been set up before and were just waiting. They sit him down, or he actually kind of got in the way, because they obviously had special forces waiting to go down there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they obviously knew that the Greys were down there operating, and they knew that since the Gallardo Treaty. The mistake was being foolish enough to think that the Greys would ever trust a treaty.
Right.
Them
the
trusting
Greys
them.
take no responsibility for each other. They have no empathy. And that's the thing, like, one Grey it's very much like, you better watch out who you're talking to. Don't talk to strangers type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that there is a very famous crop circle that came down on Earth that said, beware their lies and beware their gifts. And it had an image of a Grey's face.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to literally think of it on terms that simply, where you're like, yeah, humans shouldn't be dealing with aliens this early in our kind of like, development or game here. And they took advantage of us. And that was the abduction phenomenon. And that people talk about a lot, with the taking of eggs, taking of sperm,
right.
The classic fire in the sky incident. The Greys operated with impunity on Earth because the treaty had been signed, so their ships weren't being shot down. They were taking children. They were taking whole neighborhoods. I mean, they were taking and processing people, too.
Oh,
illegally.
my gosh.
But that's a phenomenon that people talked about, and that escalated in the late 80s, where entire divisions of the UN were set up, special forces in America, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Delta forces, and around the world, special forces teams were set up that would respond to basically trying to, take down and pounce on any kind of outlaw craft. Because at that point in the 80s, it really was like the Wild West. And that facilitated, or kind of like it urged the creation of a stronger solar warden.
Okay.
Where the solar warden existed, but now it's like fucking solar warden, It's
right.
like,
that makes sense how that would be needed.
Yeah, the solar warden has existed since the 50s, but its power really came into power in the 80s with technology such as computers, specifically the development of the first AI.
Like a quantum computer, maybe?
No, I'm talking. This is rudimentary AI.
Okay.
Very advanced for the 80s.
Okay.
Light years ahead of what they had in the general market by 30 years. But we're talking like the ability then to use that AI to control life support systems on ships during battles or any kind of like navigation computer with the ability to kind of like, perform, like I'm talking like supercomputer level, like AI.
Okay.
Like the creation of supercomputers that really changed the game. And AI, Solar Warden is very technologically advanced. It's technologically reliant. Like it would naturally be. It's a space force.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like these are spaceships. They're not just
They've got to run on their own. Fucking. They can't depend on something outside of themselves.
Or like people like don't like I think the best representation of it's literally the franchise Halo, where you're talking to the ship is run with a AI named Cortana.
Yeah, that's true.
And people don't even factor that in how complex that is. This is a fully functioning sentient AI.
Holy shit!
That in itself is the warrior that operates the ship. And if you listen to like the first cutscene in the first game, she's like, yeah, I just took out 7 ships and I navigated while in warp travel, so I think we did pretty good, we're alive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she's sassy, and she's fucking doing that's how it really operates. Captains don't fly these ships, people don't man the torpedoes or man battle stations. It's run completely through computers, and that became the better. It became more efficient, and in the 80s.
Wow,
that's crazy.
In the 90s was the era of production. The 90s saw basically it was a time of relative peace, but it saw a major boost in production where they were just increasing the amount of ships, increasing the amount of training. That's where myself in the timeline comes in at 96. They were just recruiting kids in the 90s. They were just pulling kids in the millions to go be in the Solar Warden, and they were just building these ships in the Rocky Mountains and around Montana.
Wow.
And they started to kind of get their shit together and to kind of put that language in kind of place. The government of the world shifted from the world to basically a nomadic, world kind of globalist power system called Atlantis Rising, and it's headquartered in Kazakhstan. But that was post-Soviet Union fall, basically. And that's the 90s was very busy, but it was relatively very peaceful. Like the world was getting its shit together and becoming unified behind the scenes when it came to the SSP. The government kind of system figured itself out. The ICC kind of figured itself out, modernized itself. The production of computer chips, the production of digital materials such as the iPhone. Like it wasn't hesitating anymore to start disclosing some of that alien technology.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
That's the 90s and starting to kick ass, right?
For sure. We're both 90s babies here.
Began with a invasion of our solar system by a rogue element of reptilians, and that fucks a lot of shit up.
Oh, please, if we could get into that just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. The 2001 invasion by the reptilian, basically the mystery armada that showed up and penetrated our space, basically just teleported into. There's a barrier. There's a literal barrier that was set up by the Ashtar High Command, the Venetians, after they kicked out the reptilians, right? This was literally in our timeline in the 1800s.
Okay.
Right? And the reptilians aren't allowed to enter back and forth into our immediate influence, our immediate orbit.
Real quick, is that why we see, like, in ancient times when shit was, like, super fucking barbaric? I mean, we got so much killing, slaughtering, just, like, total godlessness, man, in a lot of places. Is that why? Is it because the reptilians had control back then? Before?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's like Conan the Barbarian shit. Like, no, I'm saying that they wanted men either to be slaves, and that's why there's shit like slavery, and or like, you know, absolute bloodthirsty fucking, you know, like Roman shit where you're feeding people to lions,
Right.
you know, and like cheering it on, or they wanted you to be like, you know, just some fucking, you know, animal, basically, like without an education or without any kind of sense of community or like love for your fellow man. No, that was the ascended masters, and they entered the world globally through all these different tribes, and that they were like enlightened teachers, and that they ended up freeing humanity with that. There's a lot of astral war shit that happened. The Venusians, though, really, they entered and stepped up and liberated mankind, both physically and spiritually and psychically, from the reptilian control. And there's this barrier that they set up, right? It's basically a blue sphere if seen psychically. It extends from the meteor or the asteroid belt that separates Jupiter and Mars. There's an asteroid belt that's basically approximately kind of where it is. And then it includes Mars, Earth, you know, Venus and Mercury, and the Sun.
Okay.
Now, these forces, most conventional reptilian forces cannot teleport into this blue sphere across this barrier, keeping us safe and protected as we colonize Mars and the moon and take our first steps as being kind of like a multi-planet, you know, exoplanet species, a spacefaring species, right? We got to evolve. We got to do it safe. The way they thought about it was kicking the snake out of the garden, because this has got to be our garden for us to grow. Now, we had colonies on Mars. There were several million people living on Mars. They had, you know, lived there since the 70s, a mixture of Soviet Union and American volunteers and clones, mostly clones.
Wow.
The Mars Defense Force, you know, Solar Warden fleets, ICC mining colonies, and the travelers and installations there. It was a very bustling and populated area. There are intelligent species that live on Mars already, right? And we had a peace with them, including some native reptilians, some native insectilians. Things were very good on Mars during these days. The reptilians showed up into the sphere of this dominion, this barrier, into our perimeter.
And this was 2001.
2001.
Okay.
This massive armada did, with very mysterious purposes. It was not recognized as any existing war band or system lord fleet or anything. The ships themselves were very unique and actually very ancient looking, which there's a lot of theories as to why and where these fleets came from and what their operations were. But they were obviously took us off guard, and by us I mean humanity and the Astro High Command. The slaughter that happened on Mars was absolute, but because Mars got in its way, and it was completely unexpected of Mars or human presence, and that was a kind of captured communication from it, was that they themselves did not expect people to literally be on Mars or anywhere. They had no intelligence. They just completely caught them off guard. So the theories abound that these were time travelers or from another dimension, another reality.
Okay.
Somehow got their fucking wavelengths crossed, ended up in our reality, right?
Phased in.
But they were extremely, hostile from the beginning. They were making a direct line attack on Earth. Solar Warden and the defense of Earth basically sacrificed Mars. This was the sacrifice, and I say that very quickly, but it was the sacrifice of millions of human beings, justified because they were clones.
Oh,
and that's the thing. It begins a very, very honest debate on the, whether it's good or evil or, right or wrong. But at the same time, I'm only a 14-year-old young petty officer in training in the Solar Warden, so it's just preparing for a defense. Earth is attacked. It's long distance laser based warfare at kinetic missile, railgun, distances, fighting over literally tens of millions of miles of range.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Exactly. And the key thing to bring your way is that this is not like Star Trek where the ships are right on top of each other. This is where the brief moments you get to see outside, either through the hangar bay or through video feeds, when you get to pass kind of like any kind of command station, you see maybe one or two other Solar Warden ships thousands of kilometers in the distance. It's just glinting pieces of silver. When you're flying in tight formation, you could still kind of hold the ships in your hand, as it were, vision-wise.
Wow.
And if you are seeing a ship that close, you're docking with them to exchange either wounded personnel or material or supply or, specific staff. It's not like you ever fly point blank with anyone. But at the end of it, the actual defense of the Earth was it was a failed defense. The Solar Warden defended the moon, thinking that they were going to try to enter the moon and take it out because the logic behind any kind of attack on a planet, no matter how many ships you have, you're outgunned off of the surface.
Right.
And if you put yourself in between the moon, which is 200,000 miles away, and the Earth, we're going to be shooting you from both ends, right? It's a suicide mission to do that.
Right. So you need to take out the moon first.
Yeah, these Orion Draco did. They literally, in this kind of like funnel or cone, and at the loss of a lot of ships, including estimated to be millions and millions of reptilians, basically descended into Antarctica, invaded Antarctica, and it's not in the direct polar south of the world, from my memory of it. Antarctica is actually an island to the west, in between. It's not in between. It's an island to the west of the true geography of the world, and the most western hemisphere is where Africa, Europe, and Asia is. Not North America. North America is geographically to the east, and Antarctica is a western nation to that distance between Australia and South America.
Okay. Well, that makes...
So it's right beneath Hawaii, and it's to the west of South America and Australia, if you kind of like are looking at a flat Earth map.
Okay.
Interesting.
Wow.
Right?
So
like a flat Earth map that's much larger and includes many other different hemispheres worth of continents.
So not necessarily like an ice wall.
Extra territory.
The Antarctica landscape, the geography of it, which we would become very acquainted with, because that's where the majority of the battles that would happen, the kind of the climactic battle that would happen during this invasion, would be the true Antarctica. And it's got an icy northern part of it, like many nations do, but it has jungles, it has deserts, it has lush temperate forest. It's the size of North America and has about as diverse of a climate.
Wow.
As North America.
So do you think that's why we have so many of the elites? They call Antarctica now the elites' playground. Do you think that's why that happened?
Oh yes, they're colonizing the shit out of Antarctica, because it's like, imagine the explorers who discovered the Western Hemisphere, who discovered North America. Imagine if they didn't tell anyone.
Yeah,
right. And they just kept it all for themselves.
And so did we defend Earth off from against this reptilian invasion in 01?
Yes. At this point, while they had done basically the impossible in this Independence Day style blitz on Earth, and they actually did hit ground and then bunker into previously locked bunkers that were deep under Antarctic ice.
Does this go back to World War II?
No, this is like from the ancient world.
Oh wow!
Previously, possibly reptilian designed bunker cities that they were able to access and enter, that had been dormant for millennia. Many underneath miles of ice, many underneath the ground, deep underground bases they were able to enter. But because they had bypassed the moon and didn't neutralize the moon's defenses or eliminate any of the Solar Warden, really, they basically focused and thus were able to penetrate through the blockade and enter the Antarctica, that they were then surrounded and, followed, like basically pursued and hit from above with the railguns that we have located on the moon. Basically picked off by elements of the conventional Navy SEAL Special Forces of the Earth's military, elements of the United States Navy, such as providing Tomahawk missiles, long-range ICBMs, including China. China really helped out at this point too. There was a lot of collaboration and cooperation between that era of Navy. There was a lot of Chinese and American cooperation.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a suicide mission in terms of the reptilian Draco, because they were then turtled into and bunkered into these bunkers, which themselves are still being mostly explored, but for the great majority of ships that were destroyed or captured, many of them scuttled and destroyed by the Orion Draco themselves to convert their materials into defenses. And the ultimate outcome and fates of those Orion Draco was complete capture, surrender, and either imprisonment or execution by Earth forces. Many of them are residing in what they would call prisoners of war, basically.
Okay.
And being interrogated for military intelligence. But that also helped out the technological progress of the Earth Alliance and Solar Warden,
Right, because we got all their shit, right?
Yes. Now, the outcome was more positive, regardless of how damaging it was for Solar Warden. Mars has been rebuilt, repopulated with clones. It's actually larger and more industrious than it ever has been. And there have been a lot of recent developments as well, but things never change, and it's not like things exist in a vacuum. And while all that was going on, there was a lot of discovery, communication between humans and extraterrestrial species. I think at this point in time, around the 2020s, there had been over 900 species discovered.
Oh, man.
In the efforts of Solar Warden, variously, usually by the ICC, which is the Scientific Industrial Division of the SSP. So they usually are the ones making first contact, studying the biologies of, understanding them both as life forms, as potential resources, and as potential customers. And that's absolutely the level we're at right now. There are 900 officially recognized trade partners that are extraterrestrial species, intelligent species, in the ICC's registry. And then there are many extraterrestrial species living on Earth currently.
So are we talking like a shape-shifting species that are like just camouflaging in and looking like an everyday human? Or are we talking like living underground, like maybe with the Agarthans?
Or both?
Officially recognized, known, the locations of living with permission by our government, either in the Earth Alliance, Solar Warden facilities, and helping out as refugees, as immigrants to Earth.
So there's like...
And we're talking they live in communities. They either live alone or they live in communities.
Yeah.
And things like the Tall Whites, for example, in Dreamland. That is an actual colony of Tall Whites that had crash landed on Earth, that are protected on an Air Force base and kept that way, and have been kept that way since the 1920s when they were first discovered.
It's like a full refugee colony.
And their ship was approximately the size of a cruise ship.
Okay.
Wow.
And contained 900 families.
Oh, man.
When they crash landed in the middle of the Mojave Desert, they were basically stranded. They used their ship for life support, and they have built their settlement and their society as a little refugee pocket civilization around that crash ship. The 1920s occurred. The United States Air Force discovered, or first the United States Army, and then the United States Air Force was given the responsibility, during the time when it did have the responsibility to take care of extraterrestrials.
Wow.
And these extraterrestrials are basically earthbound, that they are civilians of America, and that they're protected, given protection by the federal government. And by that, they are, a part of this registry.
For sure.
There are many such cases. There are many different and various cases, either political refugees, technological experts that are providing their services for various purposes, usually diplomatic exchanges and things like that. Like, hey, I'll give you some engineers if you guys give us some of these some
carpenters,
that's,
or
really valuable on our planet.
Okay.
I got a quick question. So the reptilians, seem pretty awful, but could there be an exchange program with, say, reptilians that have maybe defected and they just want to maybe they're hybrids, maybe they got some piece of a soul, maybe they just want to assimilate into human life, and they are then what we call shapeshifters that are,
Yes, absolutely. That's a great observation and a great connecting the dots. Yes, everyone is individually judged, right? And everyone has individual characters, attachments to free will. The reasons why we have the personalities we do is pretty complex, no matter what alien species you are, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Reptilians are just the same.
Yes.
Not every single one of them is an asshole.
Yeah.
Some of them are very pro-human, right? Just like how some humans are very pro-cat.
Interesting.
Right,
That
right.
is fascinating.
It's just one of those things. It's like a personality, right?
Super fascinating,
Those
bro.
aliens do live on Earth, regardless of what their people have done or their species did, and it's just like how in America you can meet someone from Vietnam, and you don't want to bring up the Vietnam War. They had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And then they like baseball and they live like your neighbor.
Yep.
Right. You'd never
Take it
know.
for their value of their character and not any of these details. And that's the thing. It's various and complex. And yeah, you're right. You can't change your nature, but their nature is not worth damning them over. We're all, different. And really, that's a big part of disclosure. Is people are now getting wise to it. People are now starting to see that just because you look like a person doesn't mean you're a person. It doesn't. But we kind of get that you're trying your best, and that's the thing. They have to look like people. It's a whole thing. They can't draw attention to themselves, and but we do live in a multi-species world by this point.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And you're right. There are ultra-terrestrials, crypto-terrestrials, hollow Earth beings. Humanoid species that live amongst us that aren't truly humans, but basically are humans. Like I'm talking Neanderthals.
Okay.
And they know they're Neanderthals. And inside their secret family, talks, they try to keep their secrets and their culture alive. And they're very aware that they're not humans. But they've been doing this so long that there's no other way for them to know to survive.
There's
They
probably
get called gypsies, they get called Bigfoot, they get called little people, but it's an absolute, society has been blind to it, has been willfully blind to what's happening underneath our feet, what's happening next door, what's happening in the world we call ours, like we call our own. And there's no such thing as a boring moment. If you're bored, you're not paying attention.
And so, right, I totally agree with that. To kind of maybe...
sorry about that. The reptilians, though, really do have a colony in Russia. There's a lot of them in Russia.
Oh, wow.
A lot of them are actors. A lot of them are reporters. A lot of them are athletes.
Would you say, like...
Particularly because the refugees that we discovered, I know in the context that we had talked about, which ones like us, the performers, the entertainers, their
Holy
cast
shit.
of literal, storytellers, and I know it's odd and ironic, but where else do you ply your trade?
Would you go as far to say that there would also be, say, lawyers, doctors, surgeons, scientists?
Oh yes. Yes, of course. I would absolutely go. Like, they pursue lives just like us in our fields of existence. And they do things like run companies. They do things like simply
Make a living.
exist.
What about
Yeah.
nations?
Not every
Run
single
nations?
One of them has to be an elite. A lot of them just simply are.
Wow.
And a lot of them ran the gamut of people, them just trying to start families and things like that.
Interesting.
And I know that's the weirdest thing to me is I know that there is an opportunity for fame and things, but a lot of times the normalcy of it will shock you.
And I would have to imagine that their IQ just off the start is it better than ours? Is it higher?
Not necessarily.
Oh, wow.
The thing is, they exist just with knowledge of these matters. Like, if you were an immigrant, you would have more knowledge of the immigration process.
Okay.
Not that the immigrant is wiser, naturally has a stronger brain, but just that has life experience relevant to those matters.
Okay.
The reptilian, who is on, say, for example, the Men in Black's registry of alien citizens, has probably been briefed and given technology and an education on the subject of, that the average Americans will never get. Will never be allowed to get.
Yeah,
Same
that would
thing
make
with
sense.
witness protection. You could easily say that the government and members of organized crime have access to manipulating the system and keeping people in the dark that the average person will never understand and is never meant to understand. This is supposed to be top secret. Like how they locate you and things like that.
Okay.
They give you new identities.
Re-identify. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what they do with these reptilians.
They're just like, hey.
Reptilians register themselves, and it's been a multi-generational thing. A lot of times, though, the issue is off the radar, on the radar. Are these creatures, these species, existing by our rules, or are they not?
That's a good question.
Of course, with that question, anyone lawful is lawful. Doesn't matter who they are or what they are. If they're following the laws, they're lawful. But anyone or anything, reptilian or human, that isn't, then that, of course, is a criminal. And I think that's where you start getting your Men in Black
Gotcha.
events and associations and things like that. As well as your more present high strangeness in the world, like your mass sightings of reptilians and your occasional abductions, etc. Serial killers that often act very inhumanly.
Wow.
Yes, that
wow.
could be your, rogue reptilian in the system.
Because they have
And it's
no
just one of those
empathy.
things to always think about. Like,
Holy shit, dude. Yeah, that's nuts.
That was a strong statement right there for sure.
Yeah, that's deep, bro. I mean, we think about these crazy fucks, like Dahmer.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer, exactly. Jeffrey Dahmer could have been a reptilian
Because
that just
no empathy.
decided to eat people because genetically you can't fight his urges to eat people. And that's why when you look at him, you're like, that guy's like, he's wearing a skin suit, but he's not like a fucking person. You can tell the eyes are all fucked up and like, what I'm saying, like Uncanny Valley.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of literature about that too, suggesting that you're right, shapeshifters. That they're the ones who actually do most of the evil shit that you hear about.
And it's probably because, like low key, they can't really help it. Huh. I mean, like it's their nature.
Yeah, vampires, all that shit. That's all a part of not necessarily extraterrestrials, but ultra-terrestrials and crypto-terrestrials, which are beings and species of human-level intelligence that literally evolved right alongside us on Earth. They evolved either to prey on us or to hide from us or to do both. And their existence depends on stealth, on shape-shifting, on camouflage, on the ability to manipulate people's perceptions, cause confusion,
Be like
cause
skinwalkers.
distrust. Like their real dark side are what you'd call social parasite or parasitic or predatory type beings. And like what really is so special about humans. We walk on two legs, we have two arms, we have two hands, we have, two eyes, one nose, one mouth. Things can look like that naturally through their own evolutionary process. We could be dealing with just some weird shit, man. Like dogmen, skinwalkers, fucking.
Dude, you said skinwalkers, and Pockets mentioned skinwalkers too. So, dude, this is a true story. I'm just gonna throw this in real quick. One time, I was just moved into my house not for very long, and I had a big black Doberman dog. The doorbell rang, and I went to the door, and there was this fucking dog there, dude, just looking at me. And I was taken aback, and I just looked at it, it looked at me, and it fucking just trotted off, bro. Like, it rang the fucking doorbell, man.
No, there's a lot of weird shit that has kind of been, it's natural. It's part of the natural world. That's why Native Americans and stuff know about it. But it could be easily considered a part of this because we're dealing with species that are as intelligent as human beings, that fully recognize the details of humanity, that aren't afraid of humans, that are preying on humans, that are human, that like the story of Skinwalker Ranch and things like that, like
right,
that are invisible, that are beyond human wavelengths of sensing, that are they're hostile to humans, and it's like law of the wild, it's this natural horror thing of it, because we go into a cave system. There could be a type of cave-dwelling humanoid,
maybe
that evolved from amphibians.
Maybe a fucking giant, right?
There could be there could be giants. There's a lot of weird shit going on. So you hear missing 411. You hear
right.
All this crazy stuff going on, like people being found all murdered and shit. The one thing that I'm always thinking about is that highway of tears. And that's the thing. It's like, this is just my own personal theories of it and my own fascination with true crime. Is,
sure.
Dots. There's a highway of tears in Canada. It's like this place where all these women disappear. And it's like in the middle of a forest in Canada. And I'm like, fucking Bigfoot's doing that shit, man. Or Dogman. Like,
they're going somewhere.
Well, I mean, think about women are hitchhiking. This thing gets them, eats them. And they find bones later, and they're like, "Oh, it's a serial killer." And this ain't no fucking serial killer. It's a natural predator, and you're not going to be able to catch it because he's smart. He's as smart as a person, and he knows that when a woman's walking alone, that's who he's going to get. If there's somebody with a gun, he's going to avoid him.
Right.
He's not gonna. It's not like a bear who's gonna fuck up, and you're gonna be able to get it, so he can't get anybody else. This is why it makes him so dangerous.
Right.
Like I said, that dog rang the doorbell.
Yeah, dude.
It's not gonna it was sizing you up.
And so maybe if it was, my wife or a kid that answered it.
Yeah, if you were a little kid, open the door, it would have fucking got you.
Fuck, dude.
That's what I'm saying. It's just kind of and you saw it wasn't really afraid. It was kind of
yeah.
And that's the thing. It's weird to see that and be in the presence of it, where you're there are human predators. We're not the top of the food chain. The food chain keeps going up, and it just gets even weirder and weirder and weirder. And a lot of shit that people don't even want to talk about, shapeshifters are oftentimes misidentified. That could be a giant amoeba.
Oh, holy shit!
That takes the form of anything.
Jesus, it seemed like a neighbor's dog, fucking Transformers shit.
Like The Thing.
Damn.
The Thing. You're thinking it's Skinwalker is like a witch doctor who can shapeshift. And in reality, it's The Thing, and it's this fucking ooze that people. Native Americans have been known about for years, and you go to this cave and it gets in you and shit.
Like a black ooze.
And then you become a piece of it.
Like fucking black goo shit.
Yeah, it's The Thing, at that point, because then it starts shape-shifting inside you, and you think the person has control over it, but they don't. They're dead, and they're just replaced.
That's such a trip, dude, because when I look at what's going on, like in higher up elite government regimes, I just see like the complete and utterly like willingness to destroy what is good, and nothing. It doesn't make sense, bro. Like it doesn't make sense to me. So like, what do you think's going on with that, bro?
There's a problem, and there has been a problem within humanity, pretty much because of I think this is my own theory of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is gonna be kind of weird.
It's all right,
The
man.
Windigo
Lay it on us.
The Windigo Spirit, right?
The Windigo Spirit.
The Windigo Spirit is like a curse. It possesses people and makes them cannibalistic, and it makes them like eat their own families and
Holy
shit. Have no mercy and no remorse.
That's fucking heavy, bro.
It's like a fucking it possesses you. It's like a demon.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Which that
because
makes...
of our wars with the Native Americans
Uh-huh.
and our mistreatment of the Native Americans,
Right.
specifically of our betrayal of them,
Right.
and their trust, I am absolutely convinced that the white man, quote unquote, the white man, was cursed with the Windigo Spirit. Now, they said this is very much like, what is this thing? Is it a physical force? Is it just purely a psychic curse?
Spiritual.
Evil fucking juju?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know, but that's not normal. I've historically read it, not even in the most decadent Roman Caligula era days of empire, were people so flagrantly hedonistic and, cruel.
Like wanting other people to fail and shit and like getting off on it.
Yes, the materialistic, and you're right, even the leadership is the worst of it. And you think of Epstein Island, you think
It's
shit
sick.
like that.
Yes,
right?
absolutely
Where these
sick.
petty people are doing these like weird little rituals, and everyone and the only way to succeed in this society is to be evil and to be sick and to be cruel, and then people reward that and ignore it and promote it, even though it's completely wrong.
Right.
Like anyone with a heart or a brain is like, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
It's unethical. It's unjust.
Immoral,
You're violating
for sure.
people's personal dignities. You're being, sadistic and cruel and hurtful and exploitative and all these negative things.
Right.
That these people are blind to it, and in fact, they are perversely into it. Right?
Yeah, it definitely seems that way.
I've seen a lot of dark web videos.
Right.
I think if you guys
Well, like Hunter Biden's laptop.
I've seen videos of that. I've seen the pictures on that. I've seen a lot, exactly like the reports that he brutally raped and beat a 9-year-old girl in the Ukraine. Like, I've heard and seen photos of that. I have, in my investigations, have seen a lot of terrible and absolutely evil shit, and I have never before been able to understand
What could compel
spirit.
someone?
Like, that's not a human thing to do.
Yeah.
No, you would not think so. No.
It's akin to a type of possession, and I think that possession has its roots in
the Windigo curse
concept of the Windigo Spirit.
Man.
And I think that's one of those things where I haven't really theorized or fleshed it out yet.
That's fascinating.
This idea that our leadership is especially cruel to us as people is somehow karmic justice or at least a karmic evil and a curse, like building your house on an Indian burial ground. Right. Or, it has something to do with that level of shit where it's this like, like it's just doomed to be evil until it rectifies
until it falls, until it's reckoning,
until it destroys itself, or until it remedies,
feels justified,
corrects the debt and pays back the debt it owes to the Native Americans, gives them back their land, gives them back their money, gives them back their power. You know what I'm saying? Like, until the United States actually recognizes its evils in the American Indian Wars and in the taking and seizing of the land and the creation of the United States itself, and in fact, the Western world, which has completely ignored the American history, the American Aboriginal, unless that is returned rightfully to them, that our society seems cursed psychologically, seems cursed and perverse because of it. And you're right, like, it just... You know when the Indian Wars actually ended? 1920.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's
Final
actually
contract
very
signed.
recently that we actually forced the Native American into total submission.
Wow.
There were free-ranging Native Americans with cars.
Wow.
That it's not something that we enslaved a primitive... No, we were enslaving people who were, in court systems and things like that. That evil went on until very late, like after World War I.
Wow. This has been super enlightening, and we've been all over the place, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I kind of want to ask you like a couple more questions on some things that people are seeing in the skies. So like me personally, I've seen different types of UFOs. My first being a disc with multicolored lights around it, and I've seen spheres with white light swirling up close. Those are my two, and both of them were fairly close. The disc was right over my backyard. So these things that people are seeing, would you say that they're most likely basically
ships of the
Ashtar High
SSP?
Command, or the SSP, Solar Warden?
My personal opinion on the proportion of UFOs. Now, I would have to see the UFOs that you saw to make that gut call, but my breakdown of the ratio is that it's 60% is man-made from various organizations and companies like Lockheed, Skunk Works, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, etc. Right?
Right.
The other ones are split up between various allied races in the Ashtar High Command. There are no quote-unquote rogue or enemy UFOs. Most UFOs are flown by friendlies. Most UFOs are called, fast walkers. They're not a threat. They are merely either traveling on their own agendas, like they're doing their own thing, or they're, approved and a part of some kind of control system of your area, either monitoring or, protecting, observing, etc. So you're either catching them, going from point A to point B, like drive, or you're catching them on routine patrol. And that's, part of the Solar Warden, the Greater Solar Warden effort. The Ashtar High Command is made up of many allied intelligent races, from the Greys, the Arcturans, the Venusians. The classic Nordic is your Venusian. Your classic Grey. Arcturans are like blue, but they look kind of like Greys if you had to describe them very shortly.
Interesting.
But they're blue. They're like blue and kind of more natural, more peaceful, organic, and positive.
That's super fascinating. So
typically existing as energy, but there are many. Like I said, the Ashtar High Command has many dozens of species. The craft design is actually quite arbitrary. Now, I say that not to kind of dismiss anything. Flying saucer, flying triangle, flying cigar-shaped craft, cylinder, pyramid, hexoid, cube. It's all based on the propulsion system, etc. So that's all based on personal preference and design. Now, Greys, I have seen fly more spherical ships. Spherical in the terms of they like discs, they like actual spheres. And that's kind of like, it's extremely hard to manufacture a perfect curve. And they take great pride in the fact that if you measured their flying saucers, it's a perfect circle. And then Roswell one, the disc that landed there, that was crashed down there, was a gray occupied ship. Their ships are very smooth, egg-shaped ships. They're very big into eggs as well.
Okay.
And now you can kind of break down the shapes very simply. That way, like Solar Warden / Earth Alliance, it's all triangles.
Okay.
Flat triangles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They love black triangles. TR-3Bs, Black Mantas, things like that, are flying wings, things that look like boomerangs, B-2 bombers.
Okay.
But just on steroids, you know, like bigger. Their main ships, though, are cylinders.
Oh.
The O'Neill cylinders. Basically, if it looks like a cylinder, it's ours.
So that's probably going to be more of like your classified Tic Tac object.
Exactly. If it's cylindrical,
Okay,
if it looks kind of like a cigar without any wings or flight surfaces,
Yeah.
the Solar Warden, especially the United States Navy,
Yeah.
they basically look like flying submarines.
See, that's my only experience as I've witnessed what looked like a white Tic Tac that just kind of blinked into existence in high altitude. It floated for a little while. I traced it, like it wasn't moving like a plane or anything across the sky. It was just kind of sitting and slowly like moving in not a tracked position or tracked pattern. And then I was trying to get my wife to spot it because we were laying in our backyard just kind of looking at the sky one afternoon. And then it just blinked out of existence. And I was like, man, that was crazy.
And that's usually what they're doing. They're there. They check out the scene. You know,
They're
that's
just
the
like
patrol.
checking the
Versus,
quadrant.
Yeah, exactly. They're just checking it out, scanning, doing some surveillance, and then pop to the next destination.
Interesting.
And the world's a big place, and so
For sure.
one of those things can be operating, and maybe it's like on some kind of rotation, right? So
Yeah.
like it's there above you, but it's not like a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah.
You know,
I was
sometimes
just
it is.
fortunate
Sometimes
enough
people
to be
have a lot
looking
of luck.
right where it zoomed in.
Yeah, people have a lot of luck, though, showing up at the same time every day that they see a UFO to see if they see it again.
Interesting.
And kind of breaking down the odds.
I've never tried that.
Like, not every day, but if you say you see a UFO in the afternoon at 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
that might be good to look at the sky around that time. Who knows? It might come back.
Right.
And that's one of the things I was saying about patrols. Yeah, they do kind of rove, it looks like, on like a pattern. Like, you know, they'll be here one day, and then like the next town the next day, and then like the town after that the next day.
Which that
And
makes
it's
sense.
like, it's like this, it's a hard to understand pattern, but you can kind of start connecting the dots.
So,
Right, so-
whenever you have people that are having multiple experiences throughout their life, and we hear about this a lot, and does it have anything to do with, in your opinion, genetics or blood type?
I actually think it has almost everything to do with that, and that's because it's part of the kind of transhumanism of the secret space program. It's a big transhumanistic effort, and not every genetic type is good, or not good, but suitable.
Do you think that it could,
You know, not like it's a supremacist thing, but it's like, you know, it's
Yeah.
suitable to the technological augmentation, the implants, you know, if you're allergic, for example, to shellfish.
yeah.
Right. That's probably
you
not a
might
good
not
thing.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where if you have a heart murmur, maybe it's best not to get that one. You know what I'm saying? So they kind
Right.
of check it out. They test specifically with RH negative blood.
And now, real quick, is that RH negative? I hear this a lot. That's just a marker term, so that would mean like O negative.
Yes, like, you know, I'm saying negative blood types.
Okay.
And that's because of blood transfusions big up there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where those things that it's flexible. You see all blood types, but you see an actual. Where in society they're very rare, and the space programs they're the majority.
So,
So on Earth, it looks like they're only selecting the RH negatives.
oh,
But
that's super
in
fascinating.
Solar Warden, there are only RH negatives, and if
Wow.
you're not RH negative, you're the rarity. You're the minority.
Wow.
And that's how that's saying, like, yes, they on Earth, that's one of the deciding factors, but because of that, the genetic uniformity of Solar Warden is very noticeable.
So,
And that while every nation participates, generally the Solar Warden members all have these Hollywood they're super gorgeous, athletic, you know, like
Right.
like prime specimen?
prime specimens. Exactly. They got, like, you know what I'm saying, like it's just
their genetics are
Mediterranean looking, a lot of Mediterranean, a lot of Nordic, a lot of premier, specimens of humanity and potential, and it gets to that point. That's, I think, why they want genetics, because that's all. They're getting children basically, right, to make them that, and it comes down to a lot of factors genetically that
you think
your potential.
You think
if you were a dwarf, if you genetically they can know your future, right? It's like a DNA. This guy's gonna
they can tell if you're gonna have cancer or something like that.
Yeah, this guy's gonna get so tall. This guy's gonna get so smart. This guy's gonna get so capable. And if you don't meet the criteria, it's not a question of.
So they're able to read your DNA map.
It's an extremely elite and like personnel people.
So
personnel cutoff, and the efficiency of the system is because they do genetically.
Okay.
This is because of Dark Fleet, not Waffen. Eugenics has been part of the Rockefeller system forever.
And the Notwaffen, the Dark Fleet, that's referring to the Nazis, right?
The Germans, they were the ones who kind of did Solar Warden's job before Solar Warden, and then they kind of
kicked it off.
Did they get like a dissolved?
And
they went rogue.
Have kind of separated themselves from the projects and of the SSP.
That's
They're
fascinating.
not direct enemies of the Earth or the world, but they aren't necessarily involved anymore.
Okay.
But that program of selecting people specifically through genetics, specifically to meet certain criteria of physical supremacy, and then to kind of like create programs to clone those people.
Holy shit.
It's very much Dark Fleet's thumbprint all over that. But ironically, the United States created that eugenics model originally inside the Rockefeller medical system.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Did the Nazis pick that up from us?
Exactly. So Solar Warden's just doing it again, but it's ironically a system that was perfected by space Nazis that had learned it originally from the United States.
Dude, that's such a trip.
So by the time the United States is doing it again, we're doing space Nazi stuff, but the space Nazis were doing our thing.
Full circle.
That's the thing. Like, you're like, wait a minute. It's just kind of going full circle.
Dude,
and
so
it's completely expected. And I'm saying it's not like out of character. It's actually completely in character for Solar Warden to do that shit.
right.
Dark Fleet was a mere copy of what the, even the Third Reich was a mere copy of the Rockefeller United States system. I'm saying like it's very much we are in the hands of madmen.
Dude, for sure. I totally agree with that. For sure. So, dude, you did the 20 and back. So, are you Rh negative? Do you have O negative blood type?
Yes, actually I am. I'm a hybrid, actually, between two different bloodlines, and they had to give, like, my mother a shot when I was born, and they were very interested in the bloodline combinations.
Interesting.
It's a very unique amount of blood. I have hazel eyes, the amber red hair, with like this brown copper colored hair.
Wow.
It's got like a red shine to it. No, absolutely. And the other factor in humans is where you're born. Geography plays a big role into it.
Okay.
Because the spirit that you inherit in incarnating into this reality is tied to the place it formerly died.
Wow.
And so you literally get your life from the land you're born into. And specifically places that have, historic warrior cultures do very well, as well as were resurrected Tartarians.
Okay.
And places that formerly were capitals in ancient Tartaria, or this Atlantis world, or this old Utopia world that fell. Those souls reincarnate into modern day people. And you have things like the warrior spirit, the survivor spirit, the personal charisma, the
encourager.
the courage, the character of those past lives, like how George Patton knew that he was the resurrected Roman general, and that he was destined to lead men into war in Europe again.
Knowing your
and
calling.
Had deja vu when he would like cross rivers and shit.
Man.
George Patton would then go on to be one of the first generals of the land forces of Solar Warden after World War II.
What?
They faked his death.
They said
rolled him away into a top secret program.
Okay.
Well, I'm saying that's the
going in on
leadership.
him real quick. I know that I had listened. I've done some research and seen that he didn't trust the Russians, and he actually wanted to continue to march on to Moscow and sack Russia, but Eisenhower pulled him back because he was kind of like the mad dog out there on the battlefield.
Yep, absolutely. That he was so
he was a warrior,
and rational
for sure.
and realistic that he couldn't keep the secret of the fake Cold War.
Yeah.
But what they did was offer him a choice he couldn't refuse, which was basically be the first, I guess you would call it, New World Order general.
So that's how they got him to walk away quietly then, because he went on to this SSP.
He continued to be the first military, basically field marshal of what we know now as like the Stargate program, of the Solar Warden program, of setting up bases off-world on Mars, setting up the Mars Defense Force, setting up lunar defense forces, top secret installations. Basically, he was in charge of training and mechanizing, like modernizing the military that became Solar Warden.
Man.
And he was one of the first Earthside commanders of it until his death, until his retirement. But no, he operated out of the base in the Colorado Rocky Mountains that NORAD operates out of, Cheyenne Mountain.
Yeah, okay. That's not too far from us, so we know about that.
This is shadow government stuff. This is like, this is absolutely, they faked his death and said he got hit by a cart.
Yeah, which I've
that
seen
always
that.
was sus to me.
Then,
Dude.
Yeah. And like I said, this is the kind of like Rockefeller world that we live in. And they just basically were like, be a good Freemason and
go do your duty.
Exactly, like the Men in Black, you never existed, but he's too famous for him to do that. So like, you just don't exist
They
anymore.
just had to fake his death.
Patton is, this guy, you're now Hammond, right? You're not George Patton, you're John Hammond.
Okay.
Now get your ass to Cheyenne Mountain and do your job.
Damn.
Wow.
Just like Admiral Byrd.
Yeah.
Go down to Antarctica and do your job.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, so he went to Cheyenne Mountain, set up Solar Warden, lived his days and driving a desk. And yeah, he hated it, but at the same time, that's what he did. And he was the one who set up a lot of things like channeling past lives into training. Because he was very spiritualist. He was a very new world. He was very new age. Man. And yeah, he was an aristocratic, independent thinking, like self-educated, or not self-educated, but like, Ivy League educated.
Yeah.
Like mastermind kind of guy.
For sure.
And he leader of men, everything. So the Solar Warden reflects a lot of that attitude, where it's absolute traditional, semi-Middle Ages, like discipline and knightship.
Dang.
Where
Okay.
you take you basically train under someone who already is a member of Solar Warden as an apprentice.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, it's this collective, like you train as you live type thing, and you're instantly from childhood.
You're just thrown in.
Thrown in, exactly. Now you're kept in the back, of course, the distance, but at the same time, it's just
but
like
you're right
you
there.
learn while doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes so much
it's
sense.
odd because, you're absolutely held to extreme amounts of behavior and discipline and chivalry. And I know myself, I was recruited for a foreign exchange program with the Venusians of the Ashtar High Command. And that was to kind of build up, that was to build up my psychic abilities.
Wow.
And it was kind of unique because that was in itself a very rare thing within Solar Warden. So imagine how rare it is for even that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, only 5% of Solar Warden even qualified. And being chosen was like winning the lottery.
Sure, High
this-
honor.
Able
This is
to
a-
live amongst them for a few years. You know, live amongst them, be educated amongst their children, be
Sure.
treated like one of their own.
You were taken
And-
upon as a Padawan.
Exactly, and so it wasn't so much a childhood as a constant apprenticeship in like a temple or like a dojo.
Like
Yeah.
grew up super quick.
Exactly, you know, and it's just a lot of it, which with that education too, was post-human. You have implants in your head. You have information you're downloading literally within seconds that is now knowledge you have. You're required to, you know, exercise vigorously
Yeah.
to study everything from like the art of war to the principles of power to holy scripture and things, just
Yeah.
to kind of refine your mind and keep you focused and shit. This is bizarre, like things that militaries are not required to do on Earth.
Right.
Never, like they would just have no need or desire to educate their soldiers or educate their airmen or educate their sailors as vigorously as they would. Like you have to be an expert on other extraterrestrials, extraterrestrial technology, on the history of Solar Warden, as well as the history of extraterrestrials, etc. And the big reason for being a foreign exchange student with the Venusians was to learn their history, to learn their culture, to learn their relationship with us, to be diplomatic.
So, Texan, I do have a question. You speaking of this. So, during the 20 and back program, is there the option to like continue enlistment, or is it just like they just move on to the next continually so that they can cycle the humans that are serving?
It's a great reward to be returned after 20 years. It's actually considered
Like the top line, like generals and higher ranking officers.
well, like after you're done, it's considered a mercy because it's actually considered cruel
To rob the childhood like that?
to steal someone, to steal someone away and to require them to live without ever being able to come back. And yes, there is a choice, but the choice is made actually when you're a child.
Okay.
If you want to come back or not. And they honor that choice that you made in the moment.
Interesting.
And, you know, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's one of those things where it'd be dishonorable for you as, like, you already wrote it down. I know it's odd.
Yeah.
That they're like, why do they value the opinion of it? Because that was your opinion when you first were introduced to, and that's like
Whenever your heart was and your spirit were still pure.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And so, and a lot of it is this is the way for them to kind of cover up their abduction of you as well.
Right. It's
Because
like you just put right
literally
back in place.
hundreds of thousands of children were disappearing in their sleep. You know,
Yeah.
people would ultimately question it, and
That makes sense.
the timeline would be very, you know, fucked up.
But that probably does account for some of the missing children that do vanish out of their homes, though.
Would it? Yeah, would it?
Yes, actually, that does. That's a big part of like, say, for example, no, you're absolutely right. That's a big part of those kids that go missing and no one can
Those
really figure
super
out fucking
strange.
why.
Yeah.
It's absolutely because something fucked up and they can't be returned. Either they just didn't make it, or you know, something fucked up. That shit always happens, right? And
Yeah.
if
Maybe.
you can't be returned, you're one of those milk carton kids.
Man.
And just no one knows what the hell happened to you.
Yeah, just
And
disappeared at night.
there's been a lot of work, you know, in trying to prevent that. But yeah, it was something that experience was the teacher of, you know. And so in the 80s, when this shit started, there were a lot more missing kids.
Right.
The 90s had a shitload of missing kids. But around 2000, 2010, the art is pretty refined now, right? And
Yeah.
the mistakes are fewer and far between.
Okay.
And there are just fewer missing kids because of that. That's just one of those weird things. You're right. Like, it explains, though, why in the 80s there were so many missing people of all ages.
Because that was like right at the beginning of the program.
Yep. And for example, this is the evolution of the program, because time technology, portal technology, teleporting, etc., was invented in the 60s. But in the 50s, to start
Andrew
this-
Bashago's dad, right? Like, have
Yes.
you heard of his story?
Yes,
where he
that's
was-
what I was saying. Like, the teleporting technology has been around since the 60s. They can teleport someone right into your bedroom by now. by today's technology standards, by the refinement of
In and out.
techniques and
So
stuff.
they don't
They
need
can
a
send people
UFO.
through time.
They don't need
Yeah,
a
they-
UFO to come and hover over you to take you and then bring you back. They just fucking Rick Sanchez just pop a portal
Exactly.
up, walk through, and that's it.
But with
Just
the
your
time
closet.
travel,
And they just open your closet. There's like a shining white light behind them, and they're like, "Hey, come on, let's go to the."
So-
Step through the Stargate, and when you've done that the once, it's just that easy. You
Yeah.
step through a door, and you're instantly somewhere else.
that's probably is it something that it's a one-way door though, or does time flow both ways whenever using this technology?
Time flows both ways. Actually, you're right. That there's that, but we're only forward. I guess you call it forward-facing time-wise. We have one linear time path. It's
Okay.
very difficult for a person to go back and forth in time, so it's very hard. Like they don't do it regularly.
Got you.
But time does flow organically every single way,
Interesting.
like both forward and
Yeah,
back. But those are just perceptions of it.
I was gonna say that.
Venusians, for example.
Uh-huh.
Venusians are 4D beings.
Okay.
They can exist with total perception of time, the future, the past, and the present.
Oh, so they're kind of
Now-
like Mr. Manhattan from Marvel.
Yes, that when they look at you, they can see your birth, they can see your childhood, they can see your future, they can see your death. They can see the
Dude,
first day you were
man.
born and the last day you're going to live.
That's why
at the
they
same
have
time.
the
And-
psychic ability.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
they
that-
decide where they interact with you.
Man,
but
that
they
is
themselves exist on as a time being too.
So they're
Like, they
probably
have their own birth. They have their own death. Right?
They're
they
probably
can't change
more-
their fate. They
Man.
can merely choose where to exist.
So they're
Thus,
like
they have
fourth
quantum
dimensional beings.
immortality.
That's
Yeah,
4D
they have
shit.
quantum,
Yeah.
because of their awareness, they basically can exist in any moment they so choose.
Man.
Humans have like what I call the spotless, the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind
Okay.
phenomenon,
Yeah.
Nice.
where we forget shit that happened and thus
Yeah.
can never go back.
Okay.
And the more you forget, the less of the timeline that you even have.
And
So
that's
it's not like we have the ability to see our full existence. We
because
in
we
fact
can't hold on to it
only
all.
can see a handful of what we've done at any given time because we've willingly lost it.
Given
You
it
willingly
away.
forget, what you dreamed about. You willingly forget people you knew.
Do you think?
You willingly forget things that happened to you. The same thing with the 20 and back.
Yeah,
Most,
okay.
even though you can never really take away what happened, most people will never remember simply because of that eternal sunshine from the spotless mind effect.
Interesting.
Where that movie came out in 2005, I believe,
Yeah,
right?
that was a good one.
And
With
that was
Jim
15
Carrey.
years ago when they
Yeah.
were talking about that technology very casually.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it will be over the counter one day where they can just
Go in
shoot
and
your brain
forget.
with a laser beam and erase memories.
Yeah, sneak into
Damn.
your apartment at night and erase
Damn,
it.
dude.
So-
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, it's very easy to get a person and be like, hey, you did a great job after 20 years. Sit in the chair.
Yeah.
I'm going to zap your brain a little bit and just send you back to the door. And through the way that time travel actually works, you'll come back as a child. You'll age regress.
Yeah.
Physically, your cells will return to
Whenever
your body.
you,
You'll shrink. You'll return physically to a 9-year-old. And because I've erased your memories, you'll just assume your 9-year-old life.
man,
And
Like
you'll
nothing
go,
happened.
they
You go to
pretty.
school, you'll be talked down to that. You'll learn. Now you'll know inside your brain. You'll know that there's something wrong or that these things look familiar. Deja vu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they put you through programs like GATE. The school system itself has spies in it. It's all you're monitored and you're kind of encouraged not to remember. Pop culture is full of what I call smoke screens.
Yeah. Recurring.
Well, like your video games,
Yeah.
for example. The thing that happened to me happened to the Solar Warden experience. So, but then, now that I'm on this real timeline, this other timeline,
Yeah.
right, where I'm growing up and living in the real world, the quote-unquote real world, things like video games, right? Hundreds of video games get released by companies that employ thousands of people, seemingly overnight. Just this endless factory, industrial level production of video games.
It doesn't
I have
stop.
to buy-
It doesn't stop.
And all of them are about aliens invading the Earth.
Yeah.
Right? All of them are about the things, the reptilians, things that we talk about that happen to us in real life, so that if we ever remember,
So
we go,
it's
that was
shaded?
just a video game, dude.
Yeah, it's shaded into the video game memories. Man,
Faded
that's
into the
fascinating.
smoke screen.
Yeah.
Exactly. And things that you might remember, it become things that, you know, you only imagined and fantasized about.
Yeah.
And like, all right, and no one believes you because they're so jaded and because it didn't happen to
They're
them.
so programmed.
Conditioned.
Yeah.
Exactly, and you watch the movies. The movies program people. There's occult spells. There's like all
Programming,
this
yeah.
weird once you start seeing the hypnosis, you can start recovering your memories. But you got to start seeing the hypnosis first. You start unplugging yourself from the machine.
For sure.
Because it's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
It really is. Like if you're inside the Matrix, you can never see the real world.
Yeah, your eyes are closed.
Your eyes, exactly, and
Like-
you're being fed all this digital stimulation.
For sure,
and it's
man.
all meant to keep you hypnotized.
So, like, dude, that's such a trip, dude. And it makes so much sense. And, we see it every day going on, especially you turn on the TV, the radio, it's everywhere. I couldn't agree more with that. The conditioning and the mind brainwashing, it's all there. And, dude, so as we're kind of wrapping this up just a little bit, what do you see going on now? If you could maybe your thoughts on what's going on now with the Solar Warden and the SSP. Where are things moving? Are they moving in a good direction or a bad direction? What do you kind of see going on now and then maybe a little bit into the future?
I see us. The Solar Warden is in a state of peace. The Astra High Command have created a peace treaty that basically is going to secure the solar system for our developments into the future. Unforeseen events may occur, they always have the possibility of doing, but they're very unlikely.
Like the invasion of 2001.
That Solar Warden is going to disclose itself.
Man.
That
Holy
the
shit.
Earth Alliance, that the Astra High Command are going to unveil themselves. It's going to be a natural occurrence, though, so you're going to see how events on Earth start changing, and overnight, literally within 10 to 20 years, it's going to go from the way it is now with different nations fighting, competing, to a one-world government, to a spacefaring government, by a government that's run by technology, AI, specifically AI. It's going to be post-humanist. It's going to be what Solar Warden is, but on Earth.
Interesting.
And it will happen with the arrival and disclosure of extraterrestrials, specifically starting with the Greys.
Man.
And it will be literally overnight Star Trek fucking world.
Wow.
Damn.
The Federation.
So
where
it's
people
kind
are
of
just
like
exactly like
kind of like they were with all those
like
shows
just
that they've
straight
been
up
putting.
overnight. You no longer live in anything besides techno luxury.
Well, think
What-
about
what-
Trump and Trump.
Extraterrestrials and everything that you thought was real is real. AI companions that are running your life, running society, running the world perfectly. Then you got the extraterrestrials. You're gonna be watching documentaries on their life, about their planet.
Man, that
Things
sounds
like
fast.
that on
like
National
Futurama.
Geographic. Like Dave Attenborough is gonna go to fucking Mars and be like studying Mars animals
Man.
on
Jeez.
BBC's Red Planet. Red Planet 1 and 2.
Yeah. So do you
And
think
it's gonna be
that
just that much of a trip?
Do you-
It's gonna be just that open about everything,
Do you-
and it's
yeah.
gonna be literally like it'll be a time of great change. There'll be great chaos for a very little bit right at the beginning,
Yeah.
but people are gonna realize that technology that's sufficiently advanced is just like magic. And when the Venusians of the Astra High Command arrive with their ships, with their light ships, they're literally just going to be able to turn people's guns into dust.
Damn, dude.
They operate. It's going to be this movie was really panned when it came out because it was just so straightforward. The Day the Earth Stood Still
Yeah.
with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
It's just like that. Like, yes, there will be a lot of chaos for a few days in the beginning, but it'll just be an absolute seizure and control of the Earth by these extraterrestrials.
Pretty much just like subdue or be destroyed.
Exactly.
What does this mean for life as we know it? For us common folk, like I'm conservative and I believe in life, family, liberty. So what happens to, say, a person like that?
Now, see, that's something I'm always hesitant, and I don't want to like rush to anything. And I don't really make a statement about because there's a
lot of factors.
There's a hesitancy to say it. Not going to make any point to it. No, disrespect to that question or anything, but
no, you're fine.
What will happen is the injustice of the world will no longer occur in secret, and that justice will be for all, and that if you have nothing to fear, then you're in the clear. If you have anything to fear at all, any secrets, anything that you thought only you and God, knew, or only God could stop you.
Right.
Yeah.
In any strata of society, not the little man, but including the little man.
Yeah.
But no one is going to be
safe from justice.
Exactly. This is going to be Judgment Day.
Dang.
That's if you have something to fear on Judgment Day, then fear, then be afraid.
Right.
But if you don't, then don't, because no matter what details, what lifestyle, who you are, what you believe in, if you are just and you are, good, you are safe. And I think that's as easy to put. Like, it doesn't matter about your skin color or your religious system or your, if you have the metric system or not, or
right.
you believe in the Constitution. It's literally, do you follow the commandments?
The
moral
standards.
To Moses,
the golden rule.
The commandments of the Ashtar High Command.
Okay.
And this is where people forget a lot of things. Like, this is going to be a huge controversy, is that there's going to be a lot of people fighting on religious grounds, but it's going to be a holy war. Like, the Islamic extremists, the Christian extremists, the Buddhist extremists, the Jewish extremists are all going to want to fight. But it's one of those things where,
the creator is the creator.
The law, there's a universal law of one.
For sure.
I totally agree.
The golden rule.
Yep.
And I think anyone smart enough who doesn't only just want to argue, who just wants to learn, will realize that all faiths, all people, all nations have the same laws. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not lie.
It's just human nature.
Yeah.
The laws of nature.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you have a clean conscience because you have walked the walk and talked the talk, then more power to you, and you will thrive and you will survive.
Man.
And so will your family. If your ways are right, if your house is sound, and the Lord is, your house is sided with the Lord and the Creator in all ways, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But as long as it's true and just, then you'll be surprised. It's usually all the same.
It'll be.
I always get panned for that when I'm always like, the fundamentalists. I hang out with a lot of Christian fundamentalists, and they always think that I'm like New World Order because of all this. I think everyone should just get along. Buddhists, Muslims, Jews, Christians.
Right.
They're all worshiping the same thing, basically, in my opinion.
The creation,
Yeah.
That's why I don't think, like, people are, like, it's not like, if you believe in God, the aliens are going to kill you.
Right.
No, they're gonna try to help you understand the nature of the universe in which you yourself are, doing a great job, supporting and thriving in. Like, they're not coming down to take your shit.
Okay. Yeah.
They're coming down to liberate you guys and give you more shit. Like, give you greater. Like, I always think about the way in Revelations the heavenly hosts described, the millennial temple, the New Jerusalem.
Yeah,
yes,
dude.
the evil is taken away. The evil society is punished, and the wicked are thrown into judgment and perdition. But the good people generally get a better world to live in.
Yeah.
Right.
That's managed by the superior and rightful lords of creation, who are seen as ascended masters from heaven, aka space.
Wow.
And
That
they
is a
arrive on a
trip,
spaceship at the New Jerusalem, and they land on the mountaintops.
Dude.
And yes, like in my personal opinion, that Jesus Christ was a Venusian. He was an Ashtar High Command ascended master, and so was all the other ascended masters: Moses, Elijah, Ezekiel. That this is where they all kind of went. And I'm always thinking about Moses and Isaiah, who were the men who didn't die.
Yeah.
Right.
They literally were taken. Enoch too. They were taken by this goes into the ancient alien thing. Richard Daniken. Enoch was taken. Moses was taken.
Yeah.
Isaac was taken. Jesus Christ at the end was taken by a whirlwind.
Yeah.
It
descended into the heaven. Yeah.
Exactly, and that they will return.
Man.
And I think that will be the answer to that. Like I said, I always hesitate to answer.
No, man, that was
because it's a very loaded question. But
very
in my opinion,
welly put, man. You put that together perfectly, and that really should give a lot of people a lot of hope. It's a lot of hard times going on, but in the future, when you're down so low, there's only really one way you can go up. And sure, it might get a little worse. Some things might happen, but in the end, we got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, look to the horizon for sure.
Well, yeah, and I always think it's one of the things that if you look at and read into it, it's people always think about a rapture where people of the faith are lifted out of the world. But in the book of Revelation, the people stay on the world. God comes to the world.
Yes.
God comes from heaven to the earth. Jesus Christ comes from heaven to the earth.
Exactly.
And that's why I think there's a fundamental difference is that people think that the earth is evil and that the people on the earth are going to be destroyed in a doomsday.
Right.
And they're saved. They're liberated from the evil people who are trying to enslave them and hurt them and control them. And those are the
that makes
people who
sense.
are getting the Epstein Island people. Those are the Babylonians, the
right.
evil, wicked ones.
The Saturn worshippers, the fucking Luciferians.
Exactly.
The descents
those
of the
are the
Nephilim.
ones that who they are, and those are the ones who are going to fight the hardest and want to go to war and fear the most and be rightfully afraid, and they're going to be the ones destroyed
because they know they're damned.
As long as you're not amongst them, as long as you're not the one, fighting the age of enlightenment, basically the golden age, the age of peace, then I'd say enjoy the show.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what's up, brother.
There's really that point where you're living in the days of Revelation, whether you like it or not, and you got to get right. But if you're all right, then you just enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Because you are protected. There's a lot. Like you say, you are protected. You will be divinely protected, as protected by these physical beings as well. And that's the thing. I don't think there's a difference between angel and alien as a word.
Man.
Oh, dude, that makes perfect sense because that's one big thing. Is it from other planets or interdimensional, angelic realm? And that's kind of like what you just said. It's kind of like where I'm sort of leaning.
Yeah, I'm full on ancient aliens. I think ancient aliens is the gateway to learning about a lot of this stuff, and that's why you see when people are like, "Hey, I'm doing the right thing," I'm living like the good book says, and I always say good. That's what you're supposed to do. And in time, when the shit goes down, when it's time, right? When it's time, it'll be just like the Book of Revelations. And I think mentally, the people of faith are better prepared to survive because they'll see it for what it is than atheists and the left. I just recorded the full Unabomber manifesto for the podcast today.
Shit. Awesome.
And he calls it the left because it's this atheistic, agnostic, petty, spiteful, neurotic, miserable, self-hating, ashamed element of society.
Dude, that's so true, man.
Exactly. That's just, it says it's liberated, but really it's super closed-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that are going to be the most shocked and disturbed by the events to come, because exactly like I'm sorry if you
No.
think exactly if you think that the people leading the UFO movement, the ufology right now, the UAP people, your Lou Elizondos, if you think that they're the cutting edge, if they're telling you the straight dope, if they know really no, you are sorely mistaken.
That's kind of what I've.
Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, those people who like those guys who are like, oh, aliens aren't real. Elon Musk would know about it.
Yeah. Right,
those guys will get their asses kicked in the future
for sure,
because they're gonna be completely unprepared.
Oh man, yeah,
it's gonna rock their world.
I totally get that, and I've thought a lot about that because like you mentioned Lou Elizondo, he's ex-CIA, acting like he's fucking combating CIA and Pentagon to release shit, and it's like, dude, like probably a lot more than you're letting on, but at the same time you don't really know shit. Like what they've let you know.
Exactly. If you're a person who believes in like big government, if you're the kind of person who believes that the USA isn't covering it up, but is trying to figure it out, they're the one who's going to be most devastated when they realize they've been lied to and kept in the dark. When people who believe that Elon Musk is like really trying to help out humanity realize that he's not.
Right,
that
dude.
The name Tesla is just a marketing slogan, that he's not using any Tesla technology, that is not at all. That's the thing. Like when he doesn't have the best interest, it's all for profit. When those people have their illusion broken, it will take something like the alien invasion to do that, to fix the world, to kind of like set it right. But right now, that's the imbalance. We could live in a perfect utopia. We could live with free energy, and rights and liberation, for everyone, regardless of who they are. We don't have to have like one is better than the other. You don't have to have a loser to be all winners. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, everyone could be free and safe and smart as they could possibly be.
I could not agree more with that, dude. I mean, we know that they use this division to keep power and control over us. And without that, they're nothing. And I think that in the broad spectrum, a lot of people are waking up and are realizing, every day more people are waking up and coming to the conclusion that they don't have to have power over us, and we shouldn't let them.
Which is what I was saying earlier about disclosure, is that disclosure is never going to happen when, if you think that someone from authority is going to give you the secret. If disclosure is a personal decision, when you decide to simply be honest with yourself.
I mean, the facts are everywhere. I mean, 1952 flyovers. If that's when, that's disclosure to me. Like, I don't need any more. Like, but before I even knew about that, I had my own experience when I was 6 years old on my back porch with my granny, and a UFO was hovering over us at treetops. Like, that was disclosure for me. Like, I don't need to hear anybody tell me that this shit's real, because I seen it, I witnessed it.
Yeah, well, Wild Bill doesn't realize is that was whenever they picked him up for his 20 and back. He just hasn't unlocked it yet.
That could very well be. That could very well be. You guys laugh, and I mean, it's a pretty...
No, I mean, I've wondered that, bro. Like,
yeah, we've had conversations.
And
that could very well be. I know a lot of abductions, because people always think alien abductions are like remembered. They're not. Most alien abductions are forgotten. Like, not forgotten, but they
been suppressed.
Can erase your memory.
Yeah.
Right.
Only about 5% are actually remembered the night they happen.
Dude,
many people are abducted their entire lives and never know about it.
Yeah,
I believe that. Dude,
so when you saw the light, I mean, I know you were only 6, but missing time. See, these are the details that no one
dude, I'm telling you.
For. You would just see like, oh, that was a weird shooting star.
Dude, this shit was hovering over our backyard at Treetop, bro. And I mean, like, I'm not gonna go like totally into it now, but we actually recorded one last night where I talked about that.
Kind of went in, yeah.
We talked about some UFOs and aliens and shit, abductions last night on the last podcast. We haven't dropped it yet.
Yeah. So
I absolutely believe that that's the case, and that's something to think about. Now, to get those memories back, what I used was regression therapy, self-hypnosis, basically.
That was one of our questions. Yeah,
I wanted to ask you about
can
that.
use hemisync. There's a technique called hemisync.
Okay.
Hemisync, if you look it up, was pioneered by the CIA. It's a way to astral project and remote view.
Damn, dude.
You listen to certain binaural beats. They're available on YouTube, for example. Type in hemisync beats.
So that's like
Can you spell that for us and the listeners?
Hemisync is H-E-M-I, hemi.
Okay.
And then sync,
Okay.
S-Y-N-C-H.
Okay. So that kind of like, I know I had seen some things about like ancient cultures and the shamans who would use beats and music to put you into a trance or to astro project and almost evolve your consciousness into better foresight of what's reality, and that kind of plays into that then, right?
Yes, because what you know is consciousness, and what we all know, I mean, like what the great royal you, what everyone listening right now is experiencing, this moment-to-moment reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is yourself trapped in the meat prison of the physical body. You can what you know is what you see, what you feel, what you remember because you think.
Your body and your spirit.
You're limited by that immediate, like you can never turn it off. You can never turn off your senses, your eyes. So you're constantly having to filter like just days and days worth of data, right?
Damn,
now, to
dude.
unlock those memories, you have to allow yourself to kind of have an out-of-body experience.
Oh, man.
To kind of break that barrier. Now, that's easier said than done, but it's possible for everyone. Everyone can do this. It's possible for everyone to kind of achieve this through meditation, through that hemisync.
Okay.
The CIA proved this. The CIA understands and admits this through white papers. It's disclosed through FOIA that it makes its agents do this because it's important if you're to think outside the box. You have to think that who you are is actually an immortal, unphysical, like intangible awareness or consciousness that's one with the universe, that this world is a hologram and an illusion, and that you can remote view and astral project through sheer will alone.
Wow.
The CIA.
This is something I think
pretty conservative.
Right.
Telling its agents through white papers that this is how they operate. And then you have things like the First Earth Battalion. That's the men who stare at goats. That's the U.S. Army funding
remote viewers
and meditators and psychics and like people who had clairvoyance and shit. This is what I'm talking. This is absolutely the higher echelons of human ability, like athletic ability. But the only way to get those memories back is through practicing that kind of stuff. But once you start practicing it, you'll be very surprised at the results. And for example, the Akashic Records.
Okay, wow.
I remembered a lot of my stuff when I started researching the Akashic Records because before I didn't know. Before it was very nebulous. I was aware through dreams that I was remembering something very consistent. The Akashic Records opened my eyes to it because since ancient India, since the days of like the Vedics, like 10,000 years ago, people have been using the Akashic Records, and it's literally a intangible, metaphysical library of everything that's ever happened. Right?
Yeah.
A spiritual level.
Exactly.
And you can access it through meditation by simply asking to, by simply meditating,
the universal
on it,
consciousness,
by simply imagining it, and you'll channel correct information that you earnestly seek to understand. In the Bible, it's if you seek wisdom, knock on the door. It'll
be open for you.
God's most answered prayer is for knowledge and wisdom in the Bible. King Solomon, for example, if you ask for wisdom, God's going to give you wisdom. And if you focus and meditate on this, either through the Godhead, that God knows all, God is all, God sees all, the all-seeing eye of Horus, the Akashic libraries, the records, that there is a thing a place in your mind that you can access that can recall everything that you've ever seen or done or experienced.
I totally believe that, dude. I mean, they say, we're only using like 10% of our brains.
It'd be like tapping into the universal consciousness.
Yes, exactly. Tapping into the Godhead, tapping into the Matrix, basically, like jacking in. And this has been used by mathematicians to figure out like mathematical mysteries. This has been used by people to remember historical events lost in time, like recover places like lost cities. Edgar Casey,
he's the father.
Psychic,
I love Edgar Casey.
Talk to presidents and shit with his visions.
Yeah,
he is the one I learned the Akashic records from.
Man.
Dude,
that's what I'm saying. Like I was reading his books.
Yeah,
online.
The father of modern medicine.
Records, and the things that he's seeing in his visions are not because he has magical abilities, but because he's using this ancient thing,
remote view,
that Americans just simply don't know about.
Right.
And he's very public domain about it. He's just like, this is what it is.
He was holistic.
Do it. You take a nap.
Yeah.
He's like, all you have to do is lay down and rest and like relax and enter a state of like a trance, like he's had a nap. And like in his mind, it was this half sleep, half awake.
Because he had a sleeping disorder, which made it to where he'd speak in his sleep, and that's what made him so like special as far as his ability to do that.
Exactly. And when they realized that what he was doing was describing what he was seeing in the Akashic records.
Yeah.
And he was doing things like describing where Atlantis was.
Yeah.
Like what's underneath the Sphinx. What the president
he did call that out.
Yeah, he said ancient technologies of Atlantis were under the left paw of the Sphinx. So there's a chamber.
That's
and
that
mainstream even admits it, but mainstream is like they claim that they haven't explored it, but
I'll almost guarantee like Zahid Hawass, the former minister of antiquities in Egypt, got in there and took it all out, dude.
For sure.
I'm absolutely certain that guy himself is a front. I know the guy you said, the Egyptologist, who keeps most of that stuff. He keeps the lie up, but most of the good stuff has already been taken.
Right.
Either by us, the Nazis, the British, the French. That place, I think, has been picked
ransacked,
clean. I mean, and anything that's found is going to be snatched up by the CIA and the Smithsonian Institute. The whole Middle East, I think, is like,
picked
it's
clean.
Just filled with crap that's awesome like that, like Stargates.
Stargates, yeah. That's why they say we went into
portals and shit.
Iraq and Iran, yeah.
Oh no, the world is filled with stuff like that. Oddly enough, everyone talks about Egypt, but you know where the big resources is? The big cache of all old world technology.
The Middle East, right?
Antarctica.
Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. Shit, yeah, dude. All the fucking
in the forests,
all the pyramids and shit. They're like a giant CPU.
Pyramids. People don't even know how
buried
many pyramids
underneath
there
the jungle.
are.
Yeah.
That's like they're finding entire cities.
I know that they said with like a thermal imaging that they've been able to discover all kinds of road systems, and they believe that the Aztec were way more advanced than originally believed. So, I mean,
exactly. So for everything that's awesome they found in Egypt, right? For every like really cool Ark of the Covenant thing they found in Egypt, imagine what they can find in Mexico.
Dude.
And that's the thing. I think the reason why we're leaving the Middle East, I sincerely believe that we were in the Middle East for something called the Stargate Wars.
Right.
The Stargate Wars lasted for about 20 years officially. Like real boots on the ground type shit from the first Persian Gulf to about 2010.
Yeah.
And then once that was exactly for that. It was for relics, Vimanas, which are flying ships.
Man.
Hangars full of them in the Tora Bora Mountains in Afghanistan and shit. Anunnaki level technologies.
Dang.
Right.
Which, the reason why they're so important is because, you don't have to do any of the work. You can just get the technology,
and
repurpose it, and now you've got a Stargate.
Just reverse engineer it, and you're in
it
the
puts
money.
you at that level overnight.
Man.
Once you get the Stargate, now you've got a Stargate. Imagine exactly every door that unlocks is open to you. This is how Solar Warden is able to progress so fast.
Oh, man.
Because it's not really our technology.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't think I really made a point out. And so Mexico, we don't have to be in the Middle East.
We're closer to
scraps.
home for sure.
We can just go to Mexico, exactly, the Amazon, and just find literal cities full of pyramids, that the spaceships, like just weird, like ancient world things, man, and like the Hollow Earth, same thing.
Yeah.
When people talk about recovering a crashed UFO one at a time, that's no. They recover hangars full of UFOs.
Damn.
They recover cities that were built by the Anunnaki and by alien intelligence, like reptilians. They find caves and tunnel systems that are like New York City.
Do you think that's where the Mayans went, bro? Do you think that's where the Mayans went with the reptilians?
Yeah. I know for a fact that's where they went. I was engaged in a lot of combat and theaters of war in the Hollow Earth. Solar work helped out a lot of the exploration when it came into conflict down there because of that. Is what I was talking about. That a lot of it is Amazon jungle-based entrances to the Hollow Earth.
Damn, dude.
And we're talking like, okay, the movie Predator.
Yeah.
They made it reptilian, but that's Aztec warrior level shit.
Oh shit.
Special forces would go into the Amazon. Special forces would go into Central America.
So
and these places and be wiped out because there would be Aztec Mayans still running around and shit, cutting people's heads off, skinning them alive, putting them in trees, killing them with spears. But they have like modern technology.
That sounds like some reptilian shit.
Yeah, and how they can make lasers because they work with crystals and shit. Yeah, people forget crystals have electrical power and plasma and shit in them. Like they're not dumb. These people made pyramids, and they know math. They have ships. They have vehicles. They have modern technology.
Shoot.
Right? They're just Aztec Mayans. They're very proud of their Aztec Mayan civilization. They're very deadly and powerful men.
Warriors,
but they are men.
Well, shoot, Texan.
Like it's a fucking trip.
Yeah,
we were actually engaged with them and to remember them. To see a guy who's over 7 feet tall, dressed like an Aztec Mayan warrior, like from a book,
dude,
with the feathers and the big outfit, but
that's
carrying
terrifying.
a laser gun.
Yeah,
basically.
that's terrifying.
That is, dude. Man,
and you know that they have their absolute belief in their fucking blood gods.
Oh yeah,
and it didn't change.
Provide.
And you grew up, you live in a Christian civilization, and this is exactly what you're seeing. Is that you're seeing the snake symbology? You're seeing the fucking pyramids flying
That's
around.
So
They
true.
got anti-gravity, and there's this crazy green fucking lightning. That
Bloodlust warriors. Yeah.
Right.
That they control their civilization, much like they have always done, and it's still that bizarre, but incredibly advanced, like streets paved with gold type shit, but in the Hollow Earth, and it's their domain and their population is in the millions, hundreds of millions.
Man,
they just live geographically in territories where the surface world is not there yet. People forget how big the Amazon really is.
Oh yeah,
right.
And that's what I'm saying. Like they've just retreated into safer areas. They live in the mountains. They live in the Hollow Earth and these entrances. Like I said, they live
secluded
deep in the Amazon jungle, and like there are hundreds of if not thousands of miles of no man's land.
Vastness, yeah. That's just unexplored jungle still.
These Hollow Earth areas,
man, that's something.
It's through plane. It's through actual ship.
You have to know exactly where you need to go. Yeah.
And when we attacked them as a counterattack, because they were raiding the local Brazilian settlements, the towns and shit, and just taking prisoners for their sacrifices, just, because they don't respect our society, that they were raiders.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
When we attacked and counterattacked, it started about 10 years worth of skirmishes where we were just attacking the entrances to the Hollow Earth, basically. Dang. And, estimated, we were just at the border, just basically firing shots across the border.
Wow. Dude, there is so much there, dude. So much there, especially with what you just started getting into with the Hollow Earth, dude. Like, that shit is mind blowing, man.
Exactly. Well,
There's
the
so
interest in
much.
the caverns. We're talking caverns the size of countries. We're
Yeah,
talking
I'd
one
seen.
cavern that we had monitored and I knew about was the size of Texas. Estimated the size of Texas
Wow.
with a 100-mile ceiling.
Jeez, dude.
And they had their civilization's capital inside that cavern. And it was estimated to have 300 million Aztec Mayan survivors and remnants. And I say it's a stronghold. It's not like we were going to conquer them or destroy them overnight. We have to work with them. And,
Yeah.
Right, we don't have a
that's
choice.
factor. They survived. Those cities that they built were not because they built them and they were idiots. They built them because they were smarter than anyone who had come before them, and they knew the true geography of the world.
Right.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Dude,
that's fair.
man, I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Beyond Top Secret Texan. Man, there's so much more that I would love to get into. Unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time right now.
No problem.
I would.
Had a blast talking to you
Oh
guys.
man, it's been so much fun.
Man,
Absolutely.
been
Thank
super.
you guys for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, man.
Before we wrap it up, though, man, why don't you go ahead and give a shout out, give your plugs, like
Yeah,
let everybody
of course.
that's listening know where to find you.
No problem. Actually, in kind of a transitionary phase right now, but I'm Beyond Top Secret Texan. You can find me online by searching the Beyond Top Secret Texan. Currently, my main focus is podcasting.
Yeah,
So the Beyond
cool.
Top Secret Texas podcast can be found across the many platforms.
Sure.
I think every single platform that's like a major one carries it.
Yeah.
So you have your choice. Spotify, Apple Podcasts are the big ones. My home station is Anchor.
Nice.
So it's also the Anchor RSS feed.
Okay.
Oh,
But
nice.
wherever you guys want to find me on the podcast, videos. I have a lot of YouTube videos, over 400, so you can go check it out over there. The Beyond Top Secret Texan YouTube channel is just Beyond Top Secret Texan. 400 videos in the archives, many about this subject, but I also have different genres, a lot of like dark web videos, things like that. I kind of experiment with the different formats.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be uploading very regularly through YouTube, but
Okay.
so you can look for me on alternatives like Library and Odyssey.
Okay.
Beyond Top Secret Texan on Library or Odyssey. That's going to be like the new video platform because of the screw tube politics, the algorithm.
Right.
I'm tired of
Yeah.
fighting it. But yeah, if you want to find the videos that are archived on YouTube, they're all up there. But Library and Odyssey are going to be my new ones. If you find me on TikTok, while you can, if you're listening to this right now, check me out on TikTok, Beyond Top Secret Texan on TikTok.
Okay.
Same thing, dark web videos about this subject, kind of more like proof video, little pieces of video evidence, dark web evidence of UFOs, cryptids, shapeshifters, the truth, the stuff that's coming out that people are hide anymore.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's dope, bro. That's dope.
Yeah, and check out just for social media, Instagram. That's my flagship. I love Instagram.
For sure.
But I'm also on Twitter.
Okay.
But Twitter's just a repeat of what's on Instagram. So if you really want to follow me day to day, Instagram, Beyond Top Secret Texan at Instagram.
Hell yeah.
I post every day, pictures, memes, updates, notifications, things like that.
Solid content for sure.
And if you guys want to support me out there in Dreamland and be on the team, just contribute financially, keep me alive and independent.
Sure.
I survive by your graciousness and kindness and generosity. Tips are appreciated out there. Patreon.com, Beyond Top Secret Texan. Or PayPal, Beyond Top Secret Texan.
Hell yeah.
Basically, that's how you find everything for me. Linktree, Beyond Top Secret Texan. You know how the internet works. But that's where you gotta find me. So.
And maybe if you could get your links sent over to us so we could post them on the description as well.
For sure.
No problem. Yeah, absolutely. We'll shoot them over your way. Exactly. Like I said, every contribution's welcome. For $1, you unlock access to exclusive media. Get on the team. Get notifications as they happen about production of episodes, etc. Get emails sent whenever a new episode comes out, as well as exclusive art and. Exactly. For $1, you're supporting a good cause, independent journalism.
Sure, man.
Right.
It's like independent ufology, independent truth movement, and you're doing a good deed. So thank you all very much in advance for that.
Hey, man, thank you so much for coming on. I would love to get with you later on and maybe do some more deep diving on the reptilian wars.
Definitely.
Galactic alliances, Ashtar High Command, SSP, the Notwaffen. I'm super fascinated. I would love to do a further deep dive on some of that and the technologies at some later on point in time, man.
Definitely.
No problem. Absolutely welcome. And I'm all on board with that. So thank you once again for inviting me onto your program. I wish you guys the best of luck, and I hope people don't suppress your message or shadow ban you or anything like that. So I wish you guys the best of luck and a lot of success in the future.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, brother.
Don't go anywhere. We're gonna go ahead and sign out here, and then we'll chit chat after we close out here. Alrighty. Well, this has been a awesome interview.
Fucking hitter,
straight
dude.
Banger for the first interview for the Big Gulp guys.
Yes, sir. You've heard Beyond Top Secret Texan.
Yeah, check him out. Check him out.
Yep. I've been Wild Bill.
And I'm Pockets. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, just stay true, Goonies.
Be safe, everybody. Peace.
What? You just took one in the jugular, man.
And
oh man, talk radio.
Yes, talk radio.
So boring, man.
Okay.
You shut your mouth. What are you afraid of, Dickerson? People might find out there's a war.
I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you.
I'm sorry, could you speak into my good ear?
Let's get this shit over. I can't believe we broke the fourth wall for this shit, Morty. Oh, God. What was that line again? Oh, yeah. Stay true, Goonies. There. Let's go, Morty.